I feel like I'm one of the fortunate few that as a clueless high school student, I stumbled across Washington College. And it turned out to be the perfect place for me. I was able to grow and gain confidence, and without knowing it, get ready. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Met my bride of 39 years here. You could stop right there and be done. Then, as a 25-year-old, Doc McLean and Coach Athey gave me my first real job. Head lacrosse coach and assistant director of admissions. I didn't know what I didn't know, but they trusted me. We started off, we were very bad, and I was 4 years I was here, and by the fourth year, we lost the national championship to Hobart on a pipe shot. Not that I still remember and wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with it, but we beat Navy, which then led to my second job that I owe Washington College for, is 12 years at being the head lacrosse coach at the United States Naval Academy. But that's what positioned me to be able to come home. Wouldn't have been able to do this, and spend 22 years as athletic director at your alma mater. Doesn't get better than that. I've been able to live through and be part of and experience really the entire revolution and evolution of women's athletics and collegiate athletics, which I think is a really neat thing. In the 70s, when we were students, it was just beginning, even though we didn't really hardly realize it because we didn't know any different. But that Title IX was early 70s when it was passed. But now I know, looking back on it, it didn't automatically change things. It started the wheels moving, but that was a slow evolution. And people like Penny Fall, who Washington College was lucky to have, was one of the pioneers, absolutely, who fought the battles. I didn't even.
What were the battles? Budget?
Well, here's budget, locker rooms, facilities, opportunities, teams. Here's an example that I didn't even know what I didn't know. In 1980, Nancy Dick came to me. She was coaching the women's club lacrosse team that they were attempting to take towards a varsity level, but at that time they were barely able to be a club. Came to me and asked me, can I use your practice field and your goals? I didn't think much of it at the time. The answer was, sure, what are you going to hurt? You can't hurt my goal. You're not going to rip my nets. You can't hurt the goal, and you're not going to hurt the field. They didn't have a field. They didn't have goals. They didn't have nets, and they weren't able to secure anything that was there. So that was where it was in 1980. Fast forward to now, our women's lacrosse team is in the postseason almost every year. Heidi Yetman does a great job with them. They just went to the Centennial Conference postseason again for the third or fourth year in a row. We're top 2 or 3 in the conference, and they're really good. They're really good. How about this year, for our spring sports, 4 out of the 5 teams that were in postseason play were women's teams. So you go from where it was in 1980 to where it is now. We have more female student athletes than male. They're every bit as successful, some years more successful. They work just as hard. They're there at 6 o'clock in the morning, just like the men are, working out with Johnny Jenkins and the strength coaches. And it's just and now the great news is our students don't know any different. That sometimes bothers some of the dinosaurs who don't know how lucky you are, where it came from, where the Penny Falls were and the Nancy Dicks and what they fought for. But that's a good thing, that they don't know any different. It's just the way it is and the way it should be. Men's and women's lacrosse happens to be one of the sports that has had tremendous growth and expansion over the last 20 years. Women's lacrosse, partly for Title IX. It's a great way to balance out your football team and add 25 to 30 female athletes. It's also a great demographic for all colleges and universities. Who would have thought Cleveland State would start a men's lacrosse team? They just did. Marquette is now top 10 in the country. They didn't have a team before 2010. University of Southern California now has a very good women's lacrosse team. No surprise if they wanted to start it, well, they did. So that whole landscape has changed drastically, and obviously when that happens, it affects individual schools like Washington College, who used to have a niche in the sport, but the niche was in something that was very small. Now you're in a stadium that's very large, and so it's much harder. You can't maintain your old niche because that's not existent anymore. Just like in the 60s, the Naval Academy was one of 3 schools that shared the national championship every year. Well, that's because there were 3 good teams then. The world has changed drastically in the sport of men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse, which overall is good for the sport. And my take on that is the individual schools like Washington College and our alums and all of us that are used to the way it used to be have to just evolve with current reality and get over whatever the old niche was and deal with current, which is challenging. It's very challenging. We will have our very good years still, as we have. Jeff had a very good team 2 years ago. What you can't do is do it every year. It just isn't going to happen anymore. But we'll have our cycles and we'll have our good years. And when we are, we should enjoy it and appreciate it. And when not, we should just enjoy going to lacrosse games and watching kids run around and play a great game. So there's only 300 or 400 liberal arts colleges in America. We are one of the smallest of all of them. So if you look at the data right off the bat, the number of high school students who say they would consider going to a school under 2,000 is a very small percentage. So our niche gets small from the very beginning. Then how do you compare and compete with them? And that's a very high bar of those schools that we know well. And our conference is a great example of that, of very good liberal arts schools, all within a 3-hour radius. Then when we add in the other small liberal arts colleges in the Mid-Atlantic region, this area, you beat each other up pretty hard. And so it's an interesting food chain to try to always be competing in. As we get better, and we've gotten tremendously better, we both know, and in the last 20 to 30 years, Washington College has done tremendous things. So have all of our competitors, every single one of them. So every time we take steps and make investments and decisions, resource allocation of how we're going to improve ourselves, so are they. It's the nature of the industry that we're in. And unfortunately, too, all those decisions cost money, which then drive the cost up of maintaining and then of attending, which is where we have ourselves today in the industry, where the conversation, in some ways, unfortunately, it seems like it's come all to cost and kind of lost the conversation about quality and return on investment. I never hear in the conversation, what's the cost of not going to college and for the rest of your life and your opportunities compared to investing in yourself to go. But Washington College is in that interesting place of we're up in the expensive area. We're not the most expensive, but those that are looking at Washington College are looking at the quality of institutions that are all up in that range. July 7th is my last day. And my wife has granted me 3 weeks of retirement. I'm very excited about that. I'm going to enjoy a long retirement there. I'm actually excited about my next adventure. Going to have the opportunity, and I don't know if you'll edit this out, keep it in, but have the opportunity to work with Dick Goodall and Kate Gray with KRM in real estate development and projects. And as I said, part of my most favorite stuff I've been able to do at Washington College is facility development. I like it. I like being involved in a team. I like the process of working from A to Z, mission accomplished and getting something built and developed. And especially excited about the project that hopefully may happen here in Chestertown with KRM that I think will have a huge positive impact on Chestertown.